Good morning. Jesus is not mincing his words here to the scribes and Pharisees. Woe to you, he says multiple times. Woe to you. He calls them hypocrites. He says, you're blind guides. He's not using the kindest of words to them, is he? People would maybe get upset if they were spoken to this way in today's polite age. Blind fools. Oh, look at him. He's being mean. But yet what he's saying to them rings true. Now, of course, he's speaking to the guides. He's speaking to the leaders of the Jewish people. But at the same time, I think we can hear him as well speaking to us. Now, I would think none of us swear by the gold of the altar. However, probably many of us do swear by the gold of the altars in the world. We forget about the altar of sacrifice of Jesus Christ, and we think about the altars of sacrifice in the world of material goods, of sports, of politics, of whatever. We focus on those things. We say, this is where I'm drawing the line, right? Faith, there's wiggle room there. But out here in the world, this is it. This is what I'm committed to. Really? It's just going to poof, go away. Just like the Pharisees here, they're committed to so many of the rituals, the guidelines, the rules. Maybe some of you are sitting out there, you're like, yeah, but you two Pharisees are telling us rules and guidelines and making sure rituals are done the right way all the time. So what's the difference? The difference is that the Pharisees are simply trying to uphold ceremony and custom for the sake of doing it, whereas they're failing to see the deeper meaning of what it is that their rules and their rituals mean. And so for us as Catholics, right, Jesus has come and fulfilled the Old Testament. He has fulfilled the old covenants, and he has made them new. And he says, not one letter or part of a letter, not one jot or tittle will pass away from the law. I'm fulfilling the law. And when we recognize the parts of the law that are there to set us free. Now the Pharisees, they focused on the littlest tiny parts of the law, and they're like, you got to do this. And then they themselves didn't always uphold them, or rather, they did. They focused on the ritual perfections, but they didn't allow them to transform them. They didn't allow these things to penetrate their lives so that they may be sanctified. And so we have to recognize that all that we do as a church, all that we teach as a church, is not just to do it because it's what you do, but rather we do it because there's a reason behind it that leads us closer to Christ. So today is the feast day of St. Augustine. St. Augustine was a notorious sinner, bad guy, all sorts of stuff that Christians shouldn't have done. He wasn't a Christian, so he was really a very good pagan. He was really good at it. His mother, Monica, Saint Monica, prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed for his conversion. And then eventually one day, St. Augustine had this conversion. St. Augustine recognized the goodness of God. He recognized and embraced the mercy of God, and he decided to follow God. And he became a great teacher, a great defender of the faith, a doctor of the church. Someone who recognized all of the teachings of the church that need to enter into one's heart and transform oneself. St. Augustine became a great proclaimer of the faith, a great defender of the faith. He's a doctor of the church, and so we're called to recognize in St. Augustine that upholding the teachings of the church ultimately lead us to holiness. Not just upholding the teachings for the sake of upholding the teachings, right? Not just saying, well, this is what it says to do in the book, so we're going to do it. Well, why? Why? Why does God want me to be obedient to his church? Why does God want me to strive for a life of perfection as the Father in heaven is perfect? So that I may be more like him, so that I may be united to him. And so, on this feast day of St. Augustine, let us ask indeed for his intercession, that we may each and every day always be able to hear the voice of God and to do his will in our lives.